Call me whatever you want, just don't call me. If you have never gone on a date with a serial killer, gotten modus operandi'd, and are now back to tell about it, allow me to show you how I feel about it. I already showed the man who called himself Jesus how I felt about our date. When I was still Emma, there was just a lot of hope and disappointment. All she wanted was love, and she sometimes told bad jokes, but that's just to be funny. I love teasing and flirting, it's fun. There was this quest for love I was on, and she'd date all these guys, following her policy to go out with anyone who asked. She hated only just the thought of some hidden soulmate working up the courage to invite her to dinner just to be shut down because she somehow wasn't feeling any chemistry. That wasn't how Emma rolled. But I must say, going on a lot of dates didn't mean she was naughty. I was actually the kind of girl who made her mama proud, very self-respecting. Just liked going out. That's all. I would have kept going, probably forever, until I met Mr. Right. I did meet someone, but he took me on the date from hell, so I'm back to say how I survived death. Every person I've ever dated had one thing in common: they all tried to impress me and laughed with me. Jesus just presumed I was already impressed, and beyond that, was just going through motions. His laughter wasn't nervous, it was calculated. Predatory motions, precise and rehearsed, more about masking his intentions than enjoying my company. The last thing I remember was that while we were at dinner, he had asked a lot of weird specific questions such as where I was parked and how long until I had to be home before someone noticed. I wasn't laughing anymore, I couldn't imagine who he was, but I sensed something was wrong. I don't remember what he did to me, but by morning, I had died. The sunlight was pouring in through the barred windows at the top of the walls. I was in a concrete basement with several rooms, a dungeon. I was opening my eyes, coming back to life, the tubes of turquoise liquid attached to my veins. There were candles like barber poles swirling in red and white. My killer stood over me, reading from a book he later told me was called Exodius. At first, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. My heart wasn't beating. Then my whole body convulsed as I felt the agony of everything restarting. Blinking hurt my eyes, my chest felt like my heart was hammering its way out, and the sound of his voice was painful. The sluggish stuff was pumping through my veins, forcing its way through to my arteries. My legs kicked, and the muscles were in knots. My arms strained to move and felt hollow and heavy. My back arched, my spine cracking, one vertebrae at a time until my whole body collapsed, trembling. Then I gasped, and when my burning lungs were full, I screamed as flashes of the night before overrode my consciousness. When I was choking and sobbing, he looked down at me and said, "Welcome back to the land of the living," which I hated because it was a quote from a Bruce Campbell movie I liked. It wasn't enough to kill me and bring me back. Evidently, he had to ruin that for me as well. "You," was all I could manage to say. Emma's quickness was gone. I felt slow and sluggish. "I am indeed Jesus," he told me. "And you are half alive. What I call a half-life. It's a fun little name for creatures that died and came back as my creations. I am God to you and the others. No God." I glared, but my eyes twitched and I couldn't control my face. I was drooling. "Devil." "Sure, and you're just another bitch," he said. It stung, somehow, amid all the real pain. How unfair. I was most certainly not a bitch. Not in any sense. "You don't agree?" "Well, you are mine now. My creation, to whom I gave life. You are whatever I say you are." I refused to be whatever he said I was. I held on to myself. Even when I began to forget who I was before, I still felt it. And that's what I clung to. He put me in a cell with some other half-lives who milled about, moaning and beginning to rot where they stood. Was I going to end up like them? You won't stay fresh long. Eventually, I'll have to do this again, unless you last longer. It takes a while for you to stop talking and accept it. When you do, you'll spoil, so keep that girlish charm. It's what I like about you. He grinned. Somehow, it was the first time I'd seen him smile. Not on our date, but while telling me how to be a good little Halflife for him. He put me in a cell with bars and hung the keys to it by the stairs. He left me down there and had to leave to go somewhere else. I heard him get into his car and drive across the gravel above the basement we were in. He'd told me to stay positive so I wouldn't rot, but I think I was always a positive person. I couldn't help it. The others stared vacantly and I stared back, before I tried making friends with them. I offered them pathetic platitudes of hope, but I just kept saying the same things, and said them nicely. It was hard to think of anything to say in that situation, so I just made soothing noises. They stopped shuffling around and instead, they got closer, attracted to my voice. I was down there for days, and Jesus visited every night in the early hours and left at first daylight. On the morning when I escaped, I'd taken his second set of keys to the cell he kept us in. He hadn't noticed. I locked the others back up by closing the door, unsure if they should be let out or not, but since they seemed fine in there, I decided it was probably best to keep them contained. I planned to go to the authorities for help. When I walked along a stretch of rural road, I felt like I could walk forever. Being half dead meant I felt no real exhaustion. I did feel hungry, but not for real human food. I wanted carrion or perhaps to eat someone, but the thought of these cravings disgusted what was left of my humanity, so I just went hungry. When I got to the police station in town, I saw him. It wasn't a police station. It was a sheriff's office, I realized. I turned around and went right back out. Jesus was an elected official in charge of the law. If I reported him to himself, I wasn't going to survive very long and nothing would happen to him. He hadn't seen me, but that didn't mean I was safe. I kept going until I got to the city and made my way home. In my apartment, I looked at myself and saw how horrible I looked. I was certainly half dead, but I wasn't rotting, not even a little bit. Staying positive as a Halflife had kept me fresh all right. I just needed some more of Emma and I'd be dancing in no time. I tried on all her clothes and checked her messages. I ate her freezer-burned ice cream. I felt like an intruder in my own home. There wasn't a world I felt safe going to the authorities after I saw that he was our sheriff. I wouldn't be able to prove anything. It would be my word against his, and my whole life had fallen apart in my absence, and by appearances I was in bad shape. I'd be judged a liar against his clean shave, with my eyes dark and haunted, and my voice a slow muttering. Instead, I decided to try and rebuild my life and reclaim myself. Every day that went by, I was a little more alive. I got a new job as a parking lot attendant and managed to get my rent paid. I could smile weekly, I could briefly make eye contact with people, and I was learning to live again. It's just not fair that he came for me. He must have known I wasn't a threat to him, because he wasn't in a hurry to do anything. If he was scared I could get him in trouble, he would have simply assassinated me. No. He would drive past me and let me see him. Flowers appeared on my doorstep from an anonymous admirer, and I knew it was him. He was playing with me, stalking me, and trying to take away the life I was rebuilding. I couldn't have any peace, no sanctuary. Always I had to look over my shoulder or feel scared when my phone chimed that it might be him. As I slowly succumbed to the fear, I started feeling sick. The liveliness of being positive all the time was fading. The moment he arrived, I was already unable to play his game any longer. I was in my bathroom, looking into the mirror I regretted cracking in a moment of intense rejection of my new depleted image. I was pleading with myself to do something, hearing Emma asking the monster I had become to save her. That is when he knocked on my door, and then with a powerful kick he opened it. The monster was ready. As I had made up my mind I was going to protect what was left of me. He strode towards me to grab me and take me away, a strange look on his face like he thought he was just in time to catch me at my weakest. Emma was hiding, and she was unable to fight back. But I am something else now. I have to protect her. Who she was and who she could be if this man was no longer a threat. I surprised everyone with my speed and strength. Surely I was more than a Halflife, as I lifted him off his feet as I gripped him by the throat with both hands. He was choking as he spoke, that weird smirk still on his face as he hadn't quite realized I had him. Just a zombie bitch. He was choking as he said it and combined the words into syllables. I realized he had lost consciousness and I dropped him. I could never kill anyone, not even if it was as easy as holding him for another moment. He was fine. I hefted him and carried him down to his car, a scrawny thing carrying a huge man. When people passing me on the sidewalk looked, I just said, "I know." Right? And laughed, because I knew it was already over. I found his spare handcuffs in the glove compartment of his car and put him in them, on the back seat. Then I took him home, or at least to where his dungeon was located. He has a real home with a wife and kids who know nothing about his other home, but I never bothered them. It is probably better if they never know what happened to him. I took him down there and put him in the cell with the Half-Lives, who stared at him while he slowly regained consciousness. "I have a headache," he complained. I helped him drink some water from the sink down there, but I didn't remove the handcuffs. "Let me out. I'm going to keep you here. I'll feed you and take care of you. You'll be my prisoner, but I can't let you go." "I can't," I articulated, hearing how my voice had sounded more like me than ever before. "You cannot do that," he stated. "I am God, down here." What happened next was beyond my control. I hadn't expected the Half-Lives to do anything to him, and they probably wouldn't have. He set them off by yelling and thrashing and ordering them to attack. It was a general command, full of violent verbs he was spewing. When they surged forward, I reflexively closed the cell door and it locked automatically. "Wait," I said to them as they surrounded him. They hesitated, remembering my voice, but I was no longer one of them. They obeyed him and did everything he had told them to do. I refused to watch. I fled, going back up the stairs. I could hear his screams, but told myself he had brought this on himself. Even Emma would agree it was a little bit funny, in a poetic justice sort of way. I wasn't laughing, but I was able to let it go.